My research project for modern art history is an exhibition proposal titled Chinese Calligraphy and Modern Art, the East-West Connection. Chinese calligraphy works typically contain Chinese text written with ink brush on silk or paper to reflect the aesthetic values of their creators. I find it fascinating that I can see similar brushstrokes in many works by Western artists of the modern era. The first work I propose is the most shocking one in my opinion. Yes, Van Gogh apparently can write Chinese or kanji, which is Japanese. All characters but one are recognizable here. So we all know this painting is a copy of a famous Japanese woodblock print. However, the original does not contain two columns of text. So I found Van Gogh's style of writing is surprisingly similar to the calligraphy on these bamboo slips from the 3rd century in China. These were mainly documents that the writers wrote either in a rush or casually. The brushstroke reflect a certain sense of unpolished beauty. So let's look at this side-by-side comparison. So some strokes in Van Gogh's character are wider than the others, or would become broad in the middle of the stroke, just like these on the bamboo slips. Picasso once said, if I were born Chinese, I would not be a painter but a writer. I'll write my pictures. So it's a known fact that Picasso had exposure to Chinese calligraphy by way of Chinese paintings. So this is Picasso's print, Jacqueline in a straw hat. For comparison, I chose a work of seal script by Yisun. Seal script was the style of Chinese writing back in around 1000 BC. So the sharp or smooth corners and variation of the thickness one can see in Yang's calligraphic stroke also appears in Picasso's Jacqueline in a straw hat. For example, the line that outlines the female face. So the rawness and simplicity of the ancient Chinese calligraphy style can be seen on this Picasso piece. Perhaps this is the effect desired by Picasso. Next, we will look at a Matisse. So this photograph of Matisse showed that a Chinese calligraphy panel was part of his collection. The calligraphic strokes are bold and strong in this panel. So the Chinese calligrapher that was known for writing in this bold and strong style is Ching. So the way he begin and end a stroke was considered as a model to follow when one writes in the style of the regular script. So you see the foot of the lady in Matisse painting was painted like a standard horizontal stroke in the regular script. Art critic Michael Wilson, in his article about objects that inspire Matisse, argued that Matisse used these calligraphic lines for reducing objects to the status of a sign. Next up, we have Mark Tobey. He was an American abstract expressionism pioneer. So Tobey has studied Chinese calligraphy for sure. So he made friends with Chinese artist Tang Baiyi in Seattle. Tang was a student at University of Washington. I found this on an auction site, so I'm not too sure about the authenticity. So anyway, Tobey emphasized the importance of his study of Chinese brushwork in permitting him to discover the dynamic linearity, which we'll see in this piece. So Tobey chose the same medium as Chinese calligraphy, black ink on paper. His lines vary in thickness and dryness. So let's look at one more piece of modern art before we compare it to Chinese calligraphy. So Dali's surrealist works typically contain one or more objects in dreamy states. In the case of this lithograph, it was the windmill. However, instead of deforming the object, the dreamy quality is expressed using thick lines that resemble very dry brushstrokes. Huai Su is known for his contribution to the development of the wild cursive script back in the 8th century. So one can see the similarity in Huai Su's calligraphic stroke and the line of Toby and Dali. In addition, one can also sense the same wildness displayed in all three pieces. So the conclusion of the exhibition is that the appreciation of quality of lines, for example, bold, smooth, dry, or dancing, is really universal. Thank you for watching.